Steve Milhouse and Mike Finch Fight Game Podcast does return. A little 2-week absence. There wasn't a lot going on last week, so me and Mike were like, yeah, let's take a break. You know, we've been kicking some ass here, posting up a lot of podcasts, so we want to thank everyone, first of all, for the support. Podcasts are doing good. This video podcast is turning out to be going really well, so we want to thank all you guys for watching the videos and also listening on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud as well. So thank you so much. Mike Finch told me to take this hat off, but Mike, my hair is crappy, and I'm just not a Cubs fan, so I wanted just to mock.
Well, you can't even support the Cubs right now. It's been 108 years. I think that everybody in the world should support the Chicago Cubs right now.
You know, you sound like my mother. She says the same thing to me. You should just support them. Chicago.
You're gonna become a Royals fan now?
No, I actually am rooting for either. I still think, and I hate saying this, they're going to unfortunately make the World Series, but they're going to face the Toronto Blue Jays, and they are going to get crushed. So that is, and right now the Blue Jays are winning 6-3, so it looks like they're going to advance to the ALCS. So.
I'm not a big baseball fan in general, but by inheritance, I'm a Cubs fan. My Nana, who filled in for both my grandmas who passed away. I mean, I grew up with my Nana. She had every single Cubs game on ever. Any time a Cubs game was on, it was either radio or she was watching it. So I was very cultured with the Chicago Cubs, and I've been to a few Cubs games. So you got to root for them, man.
Now, see, I saw that picture and I thought that was really nice, and I had a little tear in my eye. My grandparents are, and I can relate to that. My grandparents are in their mid-80s and diehard Cubs fans. They watch every game, live and breathe and die with every pitch, every game.
Right.
I'm rooting. If they win for that reason, I will be happy. But beyond that, they can kick sand. I'm sorry. I'm just very.
My Nana lived to be 90 years old, and she saw 0 World Series championships. So I hope for the Cubs fans who are 90 right now that they get one. But anyway, MMA podcast, Steve.
I know we get always a little sidetracked. We got a lot to talk about. We don't really have, like, we're going to preview World Series of Fighting 24. We're going to talk TJ Dillashaw, Urijah Faber, but we're opening up with basically an edition of the dating game. It was confirmed on the long-awaited rumor was finally confirmed by UFC heavyweight Travis Browne. He is dating UFC women's bantamweight champion of the world, the one and only Ronda Rousey, and I like how he said it. I'm her man. She's my woman. Dating's for people that are in high school. I just love how Travis Browne put it. Travis Browne's a good dude. He actually really is a great dude. And just the way he went about it, I thought was awesome.
He also trains with Edmund, right? He also trains at Ronda Rousey's gym with Edmund, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
That is correct. But your thoughts on the newest relationship in the UFC? It's between the top female fighter in the world and a guy coming off a devastating loss to Andrei Arlovski in May.
Well, hey, that's a good guy to hold her down. I mean, he's a big, powerful, badass dude. So I couldn't see Ronda Rousey with like Justin Bieber or Ryan Seacrest or some little you know what I mean? I'm glad it's a fighter. And Travis Browne's a nice guy. Travis Browne's a really cool guy. So there's I wish them both the best. Of course, a lot of people are raising a fuss because Ronda Rousey was upset and used Floyd Mayweather's history against him with violence against women, violence against his girlfriend or wife. And of course, Travis Browne is accused of the same thing. Does that really matter? Is that on my mind at any point in my day? No, I think that they're going to be just fine. And they're both adults, like you said. You know, they're both very, very mature people. So I think I wish them the best.
And a lot has been made about this whole situation. And she's back. You know, she's a hypocrite. She's dating a guy who allegedly beat his wife and we don't know if he allegedly beat. We don't know if he beat. Like that's what it said. Allegedly, there was an investigation.
Right.
Travis Browne was cleared.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still upset about that because the firm that runs it also represents the UFC in litigation cases. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people think a lot of hypocrisy in this situation. But you know what though? Regardless, couples don't always work out. A man and wife, yeah. When you make that vow to get married, you should stay married. But there are cases where people do get divorced. The divorce rate in this country is over 50%. It happens. It's a part of it. It doesn't mean should you go cheat. It's also rumored that he allegedly cheated on her with Ronda Rousey. That has not been confirmed either. She says, yeah, he's like not happening. So there's a lot of, it's that old saying about my mind, Mike. One side, the truth is somewhere in the middle. She's saying this. The truth is somewhere in between.
Apparently, you need to go get an interview with Travis Browne's ex-wife. Then you could do the whole inside scoop.
I tried. I have
actually. Going on, man?
I have tried. I actually yesterday I have tried to reach out. I have not gotten a response yet, but not
okay.
But I think everyone's making this much to do about nothing. It's the biggest MMA star in the world, the top female athlete in the world.
Right. It was on Yahoo this morning.
It's everywhere.
Big news, yeah.
Everywhere.
Legitimate news. My mom probably knows it. You know what I mean? That's how big a news it is. And I'm glad that Ronda Rousey has sort of transcended the sport in that way and is that big of a star truly now, you know. They were saying how big of a star she was, saying it. And it's almost like by saying it and by giving her that title, in time it becomes, you know, unanimously true. And it's really over the past year, I would say Ronda Rousey's popularity has doubled. You know, they're writing articles now about who she's dating. I've never seen that for any of the male MMA fighters. Yahoo.com doesn't care when, you know, Chuck Liddell's dating a new girl. But you know what I mean? So I like seeing that it's transcending the sport. Is that something that I stay up at night about? Probably not, right?
You know you do. Stop it.
Here's a good topic. TJ Dillashaw, the UFC 135-pound champion, just left Team Alpha Male. Now they're going back and forth, right? Did he leave? Did he get kicked out? I'm sure you're somebody who has more of an inside scoop, Steve. What exactly happened with that?
This has been kind of like this situation with Ronda and Travis Browne. This is like one of those things to where you saw this coming. The writing was on the wall.
Right.
You look at just how this all happened. You know, the situation, Ludwig leaves the gym. Dillashaw beats Browne the first time.
Right.
Then Ludwig stayed through, if I remember, I had my time correctly. He stayed to when Mendes fought Aldo, and then he was gone. But then Ludwig was still working with Dillashaw, and that started to fuel the fire. You know, Ludwig wasn't happy with Faber. Faber goes on the MMA Hour on MMAfighting.com I think a week or two ago, and just goes off the rails, bashing Ludwig, saying, you know, he's a cheapskate, you know, he's a racist, he's sexist, so on and so forth. You know, I think that was the tip of the iceberg for Dillashaw. It was like, okay, I'm splitting my time, but like you said, I've been splitting my time between gyms.
Right.
It's become difficult. They're both not getting along. Right. Until Ludwig came in, I wasn't doing anything. I was a good fighter, but Ludwig got me to the championship level. Mm-hmm. I don't blame TJ Dillashaw for going, you know, being part of Team Elevation, the gym run by Muscle Farm. They're sponsoring him, more or less. Everyone's like, oh, you win for the money, but they're paying for his fight team. Because that comes out of the fighter's pocket. People don't understand this. These guys that come in, they're not coming in for $5.
Right.
They're coming in for a good amount of money.
Right.
Muscle Farm is essentially what Muscle Farm is doing is they brought in Dillashaw, Matt Browne, Donald Cerrone, Clay Guida, Brandon Thatch is already there, Neil Magny's already there, Kat Zingano. So that team's already building up. Lester Bowling, one of the best MMA wrestling coaches in the business. Ludwig's going to come in here and there, you know, mainly just to work with Dillashaw. So Ludwig's not a part of the gym, exposed to him, but he's still going to work with Dillashaw. But it's a great move. I think he got to the point to where it was like, this gym is only taking me so far. And I can't blame him. I really can't.
That's really interesting considering that that's the gym that, you know, what everybody considered the number one gym for lighter guys is Alpha Male. It's very interesting that you're so confident in his move. Obviously, he's doing the best thing for him, but I can't imagine that 100% of his success you know, at least the difference, you know, between the original TJ Dillashaw we saw in the UFC and today's championship TJ Dillashaw is all in Bang Ludwig. I have to imagine that a lot of that is sparring with Chad Mendes and Urijah Faber and Benavidez and everybody down there at Alpha Male, and he really did have a squad to spar with. That's my main concern when he moves over. Obviously, he's getting a striking technique in with Bang Ludwig. Bang Ludwig is one of the best striking coaches ever in MMA. Clearly, I mean, the way that he was able to take TJ's technique, movement to another level is, you know, perhaps the greatest job any coach has ever done in MMA. You know, next to Mike Winkeljohn, Greg Jackson. AKA, I mean, there's a handful of examples. Rafael Cordero, phenomenal striking coach. But, I mean, I would say Bang Ludwig's right up there. I'm just worried about, you're naming a lot of heavier people. I'm worried about him having lighter guys to spar with that are at that championship level that Faber's squad is.
And, you know, a lot of people have brought that point up, and I think it's a valid point. It really is. How is this training going to be when you need the guys to train with at your weight class? And then I understand. But it also comes to that point to where Ludwig has to get a lot of the credit because he's training with Mendes, Benavidez, Faber, Cody Gauntlet. What are these guys doing for him? Are they getting him to the next level? Yeah, it's good to train with guys like that, but he wasn't winning world titles. He wasn't the man. Chad Mendes hasn't won a world title. Joseph Benavidez hasn't won a world title. Urijah Faber hasn't won a title since he hasn't been a world champion.
These are guys at the top of the game.
But when it gets to the big fight, who's Urijah Faber beat in the last 6 years? That's a big name. Eddie Wineland? That's probably
everybody but the champions.
Everybody but the world champions. He hasn't beat the man. And no offense to Faber, and I agree with Benavidez. I mean, with Dillashaw. I think Dillashaw's going to put him out the pasture. I think they fight. And it's going to be very bad for Urijah Faber when this fight comes. It really, I love Faber. I love Urijah. But when it gets to the big fight, I have no faith in Urijah Faber because he hasn't stepped up when he's needed it the most.
So you expect the Urijah Faber versus TJ Dillashaw fight to come soon, to come in 2016?
Oh, yeah. I'd be shocked if this fight doesn't happen in 2016.
Wow.
And it can only be for the title.
Wow. Dang. It's like, wow. It's student fighting master, right? It's that old story. That's you know, something to think about. I think that TJ Dillashaw has a lot on his hands with Dominick Cruz, but who knows if Dominic makes it to the fight. At this point, it seems more likely that he'll get injured. As much of a fan as I am of Dominick Cruz, I mean, you know, imagine Urijah Faber stepping in for Dominick Cruz even. I suppose that is a big possibility.
And you have to remember that now.
Right. That's phenomenal. Have they both actually said that they would fight each other at this point? Because they both certainly said that they wouldn't fight each other before.
They more or less they said they'll fight.
Okay.
Wow. Now that it's out there.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to think that TJ Dillashaw is gonna put on his dancing shoes and lose Urijah out there the same way that Dominic lost Urijah out there. You know, they move side to side. They don't stand in front of you. Urijah's T-Rex arms don't get there, and you land punches and he doesn't. You know, you Muhammad Ali and you move. And I think that TJ Dillashaw is an exceptionally bad matchup for Urijah Faber. So I think your assessment would be correct that TJ Dillashaw would take him out. I definitely think that TJ's biggest hurdle here is not Urijah Faber, is Dominick Cruz. How do you see that fight playing out if Dominic shows up? Sorry, guys, we lost Steve. We'll see if we can get him back real quick. In the meantime, guys, I am letting go of the Mike Finch Minute coming up here. So the Mike Finch Minute is going to be up on my Facebook page. We'll say tonight at about 10 o'clock. So if you guys want to check back for that, facebook.com/Mike Finch MMA. And what I did was I broke down the Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm fight. And I gave my prediction as well. I think that, of course, everybody's picking Rousey, but I gave a little insight into what I feel will be different about this fight, and I do expect it to be a lot different than every other Ronda Rousey fight you guys have seen. Go check that out, facebook.com/Mike Finch MMA. It'll also be up on my YouTube page, youtube.com/Mike2Finch. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back.
Mike Finch, are you there?
Steve Muehlhausen, I am.
Let's keep going. Where were you going before I got cut off here, unfortunately?
Well, we wrapped up talking about the TJ Dillashaw and Urijah Faber happening. So yeah, we're expecting them to fight in 2016. I suppose that does make sense if they both agree to it. Let's go ahead and start breaking down this card coming up here. Obviously, as you know, and I think I found out before anybody else because I was on Rothwell's Facebook page, Stipe Miocic is out of the Ben Rothwell fight. Big frown face for all his fans. I mean, that was going to be a good fight. I think that I'm a big Rothwell fan. He's just up in the gym before, but I mean, I expected Stipe Miocic to be the victor in that fight. Obviously, it doesn't get to happen now. Ben Rothwell's on a roll. It's unfortunate that they didn't keep him on this card.
He was very disappointed because he wanted to fight.
Right.
He wanted to fight anybody. He was willing. I talked to someone in his camp today. He was willing to he wanted to fight. He didn't care who it was, a veteran, a rookie,
right,
someone from another organization coming right in. He just wanted to fight.
Yeah.
He was really important. This is a big fight for him.
Yeah.
Because if you look at where he's on a nice little run here.
He's in a
and you get on that run, you're on a streak. Man, and you get taken down by the seat of your pants and you didn't want to fight. And I don't get why the UFC held him out. I really don't, unless they have like this big plan here for Ben Rothwell.
Right. No, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either because he's on a roll, but he's not necessarily the most marketable guy. So what are you risking is really what I'm asking. If he really wanted to fight, as he said on Facebook, as he said, obviously to the media, I don't see why you don't try to scramble and get him an opponent. Would Josh Barnett not step up? Would even guys that night, Travis Browne is fighting. I would rather see Travis Browne and Ben Rothwell over Travis Browne and Matt Mitrione. I mean, are you going to pull a guy from Matt Mitrione then? Does that make sense? I guess they decided not, right?
Mitrione wanted to fight because he don't fight Browne until January. So it was like, okay, I'll take the fight now. I'll still fight Travis Browne 3 months later. Right. I think that was a good idea, but by Mitrione, and the UFC does like him, and he is marketable. But I just don't get why I know it's close to the event, but a guy wants to fight. This is how they get paid.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. And there's got to be heavyweights out there who would have accepted the fight. I can't imagine that there's nobody in the top 15 who wanted the fight. So it's an interesting move. And I thought that was a big draw for this card, at least for me. I thought it should have been the main event. I think Stipe Miocic and Ben Rothwell pull better than Dustin Poirier does.
Well, the lure of the card is Joe Duffy. That's the lure of the card, just because it's in Ireland. Irish Joe Duffy, he's got the Irish, the Irish background. Sure. That's the reason they went there, and I understand that's fine. And I agree. The real main event, at least to me and a lot of other people, were Rothwell and Miocic. So it's kind of like you look at it now. What do you do with Rothwell? Rothwell's like, you know what? I'll wait until the winner of. I'll keep training. See what happens with Overeem and Dos Santos. One of those guys get injured, I'll step right in.
Right.
So I don't think he already beat Overeem. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But hey, he wants to get paid. Overeem back to Overeem, it seems like. And I don't know. I think Rothwell got he got screwed here. Derek Lewis offered to step in. Mitrione. My man, Tyrone King in the ring, Spong. The kickboxing legend. And
is that why he said that? Because I was reading his Facebook and he said Tyrone Spong's in World Series of Fighting. He named those names you just mentioned. Those guys were offering to fight him. Those were the guys.
Yeah, those were the three guys. And of course, conveniently, then World Series announces today that Spong will be fighting on the show December 18th out in Las Vegas. So kind of convenient that the World Series of Fighting went that route right after this announcement. But I feel bad for Rothwell because, like you said, now what do you do with him?
Right.
Maybe him and Barnett. I like that fight. I think that's a fight that is marketable. Two guys that are on the rise into the division. I wouldn't mind a rematch with him and Arlovsky.
Right.
I would love to see that fight from. They had a good fight in Affliction in it was summer of 2008 for Affliction show, and Arlovsky won an entertaining fight. It wasn't like the fight was a dud.
Oh no, that was an awesome fight. Both of those Affliction cards were pretty damn good cards before they had to cancel that third one. Yeah, that was an awesome fight. I think that makes a lot of sense. And here's something different, Steve, about heavyweights than any other division on short notice is that they don't have to cut the weight. It's different, unless, of course, you're a Brock Lesnar or you're a Bigfoot. I mean, it's not like where Chad Mendes took the Conor McGregor fight on short notice. He fought, he gets hit to the body a couple times and starts gassing, right? They perform worse if they're cutting a lot of weight on short notice. In the heavyweight division, Andrei Arlovsky doesn't have to cut weight. So guys like that stepping in on short notice, it makes even more sense.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm just shocked. The UFC did not give Rothwell a fight here. It's just very mind-boggling. But going back to the Dillashaw Faber thing really quickly, I was thinking about Conor McGregor when we were talking about Duffy. Conor McGregor called this. He called Dillashaw a snake in the grass. It's like Conor McGregor is Nostradamus. Everything he says, it's a reality.
I don't know. I mean, he predicts a lot of stuff really well. Sometimes he's just talking shit and he's lucky, though.
Hey, sometimes it's better to be lucky than talented. Remember that. Always remember that, Mr. Finch. You always have to remember, especially in the MMA landscape.
Right.
Just a little bit of luck. Sometimes skill really isn't required. Hey, I have a job. So obviously skill is not really required.
Nice.
But that also, I think, lays more fire under this feud. I think that little factor. Now say McGregor loses the Aldo.
Sure.
You could have McGregor and Faber. I wouldn't even be opposed to McGregor and Dillashaw at some point.
This is the thing I'm seeing. Conor McGregor is a big 145er. Okay, Conor McGregor is a very big 145er. He's very tall. He's very long. And he has some trouble making 145. If you look at his face when he weighs in at 145, I mean, he looks like, he looks anorexic. It's pretty scary. Do we see that often? Yes, for sure. But he's talking about moving up to 155. TJ Dillashaw is all the way down at 135. If they met at 145, that would make sense. A TJ Dillashaw Conor McGregor fight would be a fantastic fight. Who does not want to see that fight? I think what is more likely to happen is Conor McGregor fighting the top guys at 155.
Oh, I agree. That will eventually happen. We'll get more into that talk in December, but I do agree with that. It's just so intriguing. Conor says this, and then like a week later, it happens.
Right.
It's like, huh. And that show was taped in like end of July through August.
Right.
Very, just unbelievable how smart this guy is. That
I mean, maybe that's not an accident. Maybe he hears rumors. You know that the fighters often know a lot of things that the media doesn't. So he just did the Ultimate Fighter with Urijah Faber. He's probably got more information than you and I are aware.
I'll put it this way: the fighters don't say too much. They'll say to the media like off on the side, just like off the record. Trust me, the stories I can tell you. And our listeners would get me in a lot of trouble. It would blow your mind away of what I've seen,
right? What
I've heard. It's very, especially regarding Urijah Faber. I've heard plenty of stories, seen plenty of stories, and trust me, it's quite intriguing. But no, getting back to talk about the heavyweight situation But it's still really in flux. It's like you were talking about Stipe and Rothwell and Barnett situation. You got Overeem and Dos Santos, and that's really it. You got Mitrione and Travis Browne. You still don't have an official announcement of the heavyweight title fight with Velasquez and Verdum. That looks like taking place, I've been told, I think it's March the 13th in a closed retractable roof soccer stadium in Brazil. But that's not guaranteed yet. So it's really... This heavyweight division right now is really weird. Arlovsky doesn't have a fight. Barnett doesn't have a fight. Who knows if Barnett's even coming back. So it's like this heavyweight division, while I'm loving what's going on, it's really in limbo because we don't have a title fight and we only got one contender fight coming up, and that's not for another 2 months.
Well, right. Well, and I mean, the heavyweight division is relatively stacked, especially if you compare it to, where it was when Tim Sylvia was the heavyweight champion. I think that there's a lot of talented heavyweights. And there are other guys up there. So I think that, that we're going to see some great heavyweight title fights coming up. They did decide to go with, of course, Kane and Fabricio, and that's clogging up the division a little bit. But it's partially because there was no clear number one contender. There's a lot of guys who deserve a title shot, I think, but it's hard to say that one does more than the other. The Stipe Miocic and Junior Dos Santos fight was very, very competitive, very close. Of course, Stipe comes out and absolutely mauls Mark Hunt. You got Andrei Arlovsky knocking people out and, surviving a decision against Frank Mir, who, by the way, Frank Mir also had a career resurgence. So you got a lot of guys, a lot of names, some old, some new in the heavyweight division, and I think it's a good mix. I think Stipe Miocic is a top, 5 fighter on planet Earth, any weight class. So, it's unfortunate that he got injured. I'm not quite sure how long he'll be out, but it's a cost to the heavyweight division. Does that mean that Rothwell shouldn't be fighting or shouldn't be, scheduled pretty soon here? No, I mean, he was in shape. He wants to fight, and I hope he does. Absolutely. Here's something I wanted to talk to you about, Steve. Nick Diaz got one.
We forgot about this.
Okay. He got more than 100,000. So now what?
Now what happens is I've reached out to people at the White House. Like they're the people that handle this. I have not gotten a response yet, but I've seen a response. I forget what website it was, and I do apologize. I think it was MMA Junkie, and they had told MMA Junkie that now what happens is they'll file a written response. There'll be a response within the next 60 days. That's what they've told USA Today. I haven't gotten that response yet, but that's what they said to USA Today Sports, and nice. Quite amazing. He has. Still 2 days to go, and he already has 110,000 signatures. I think this is quite amazing. And you look at it, and George St. Freaking Pierre is defending Nick Diaz. George St. Pierre doesn't defend nobody except things about drugs. He's talking about Nick Diaz and marijuana, and he supports Nick, and anything he can do, he'll be glad to help. Absolutely amazing.
I think the larger topic here is that they need to stop testing for marijuana in combat sports. I think is the larger topic. Because he's getting if you look at it as a performance-enhancing drug and the way it is classed, he is getting, a reasonable suspension. But it's not reasonable because it's marijuana. It's like if I'm about to fight tomorrow, Steve, and they tell me my opponent is on steroids, do you still want to fight him? Now it's a big decision. It's like,
that's a different story.
Steroids. If they're like, hey, we just saw him smoking a blunt, Are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah, of course we're going to fight. I mean, does you really care if your opponent is high while you're fighting him or has smoked weed that month? I would say that, 99% of athletes are going to say no, that they don't care if they're getting high. It's the same, similar thing if they're drink some caffeine or if they're took a pre-workout or if they got drunk. I mean, who cares, So I think that the overall conversation here and the larger topic that is looming over this is that the Nevada State Athletic Commission needs to start setting a standard that they're not going to be testing for marijuana, especially in cases where people live in states where marijuana is legalized or at least where they have a medical card like Nick Diaz does have. They shouldn't be coming down on these guys at all.
No, it's a joke. And like, if you're smoking marijuana right now, I would care less. Right. It's not affecting your performance here. It's really not. And if I was, it wouldn't be affecting mine either. I think the fact that this has 110,000 votes does show that people do think this is ridiculous. If you start just breaking it down, Mike,
absolutely,
like you said, like he just said astutely, this is ridiculous. The fact that we even have to be having this conversation is ridiculous. It is marijuana. It is not like he's snorting cocaine. It is not like he is taking performance-enhancing drugs. This doesn't affect his performance in any way, shape, or form. The studies have been proven. This isn't like this is some new common sense fact that we don't already know. Marijuana does not affect your performance in terms of fighting. It does not. And I think this also shows that Nevada really screwed up here.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, cocaine's okay. They're not. Cocaine's a banned substance, remember?
Oh, yeah, allegedly. Cocaine actually does affect your performance, but okay, but that's for another.
Yes,
we'll talk about that when Mr. Jones.
I mean, I would agree. I would agree that anything affects your performance. If I have McDonald's or if I have a different meal, that's going to affect my performance. If I have caffeine before I fight, that's going to affect my performance. If I smoke a joint, that's going to affect my performance. But it's not in the same ballpark as taking real performance-enhancing drugs. The performance-enhancing drugs that you think about when you hear PEDs, human growth hormone, and various types of steroids, various types of things to give you better cardio, to allow your muscles to recover faster, to give you more of an explosive ability. The difference between Vitor Belfort, who was KOing Luke Rockhold, and the Vitor Belfort who fought Chris Weidman, that difference, those are the PEDs we're talking about. I don't think we're talking about marijuana. I don't think we're talking about the smaller ones that already are acceptable and legal. I actually think there is a caffeine limit you can get up to, but obviously we're on the same page as our 110,000 people. This is silly, and this is just retiring an athlete who is completely unjustly being punished and being fined.
And for something he didn't. Don't get me wrong. He needed to follow the rules. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go be a rule breaker, go be a rebel, and all this other nonsense. But when it was blatantly obvious something was wrong with that test, this commission, which has about the IQ of 5 fingers, combined, I'll give them out of 5 of them their IQ. They each have an IQ of 1. I don't know how you get this wrong here. And Governor Sandoval of Nevada, very disappointed in him. Yeah, these are the guys you hired, but you're also you're the goddamn governor. Sorry for my language. But you're the goddamn governor of Nevada.
Yeah, no.
These people, you can fire them. You can overrule a ruling. This is where this really, okay, you want to support him. Of course you do. You brought him in. Okay, politically, I understand. But when you got one person who decided she wanted to go into business for herself, try to make herself the story, when all she needs to do is just gather the facts and not be incompetent. And when we get this, and I'm telling you right now, this will get overturned. I don't think it's going to be by the White House. I'm telling you that right now. That's not. I think it's it's a good public relations thing. It shows that there is a support out there that people do support him. And I think that's a great thing. That's great for the sport. I think this helps the sport. I think it shows a hypocrisy of the state of Nevada some more. God bless the United States of America. Good job. Well, at the end of the day, this gets overturned, whether it's by the White House, which is highly unlikely, or by the state of Nevada. when it goes to court.
When Wanderlei Silva got his lifetime ban, I believe he got that removed, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
not by the United States of America, but he got no votes. But yeah, that was the court overturned it. That hearing is coming up, I think next week. So that will be mighty interesting.
Absolutely. Well, and this is mighty interesting. If I had to guess, I would say there's a 60% chance Nick Diaz still gets screwed. I would say there's a 60% chance this stays, and it's because it's his third offense, and he knowingly did this. Now,
no. I'm going to disagree with you. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
But when 2 tests from WADA accredited labs tell you one thing,
right,
and then this non-accredited lab is about 15 times the amount of what he originally had. That's common sense right there. You're not stupid. I'm not stupid. We're smart, intelligent people. That's common sense.
We both know that she's sitting there and she's seen him laying down on the canvas with Anderson Silva. She's seen him flicking his opponents off. She's seen him do all this other stuff. And how much they were talking about, how they wanted him to be obedient, or they wanted him to sort of say he's sorry, and they wanted him to plead, her specifically at least. It was all of them. It was very, very odd, and I think that there's a lot of other motivations for her to try to remember initially give him a lifetime ban. So you and I both know that she doesn't like Nick Diaz. She thinks he's an asshole, and she wants to punish him. Like a teacher wants to punish a bad student, or you know what I mean? It's almost like has a very authoritarian role in this position, and she's using all of her power. She tried to retire him. She tried to say that he could never fight again. After everybody was silent, and it was an awkward silence. Of course, she reduced it to a 5-year ban. But I think this is on a personal level with her as well. This are her personal beliefs that she's acting on.
The her we're referring to is Commissioner Pat Lundvall.
Right.
I say that from the beginning. I do apologize for that. Go ahead, Mr. Finch. I do apologize.
No, you're good. That was my thought. Is that it's corrupt. It's not a just punishment. For the punishment doesn't match the crime. If you look at it objectively, of course, his opponent took steroids. He smoked marijuana. His opponent gets suspended for 1 year. He gets a lifetime ban that didn't go through, luckily, and then they go 5 years instead. So that's absurd all the way around. I really hope it changes. I really, really hope that what you're saying from a scientific standpoint, how the 2 tests were either low or below the limit, and then the 1 test was outrageously above.
It was like 726, which is just
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't go up 18 times the amount. After and this is the part that's funny. He was fine before the test. Before the fight, they took a test. He was fine. They took a second test. He was fine. It was the second one was after the fight was high, and then it was about an hour and a half after the fight, and it was fine. So you got 2 on. It's just an inconsistency with this commission, and it's been more than proven in the past. We don't have enough time in the day to discuss their incompetence. But at the end of the day, they screwed up.
Right.
Now they're paying for it.
Right.
I think there's going to be a lot of pressure. This is going to go to court. I think Nevada overturns this.
Okay.
Regardless of, I think they do. If you want to get them on anything, you can get them on the questionnaire. Okay, you give him a year, big deal. Or even give him 9 months, he's back.
You think
okay. I think it goes. They're going to fight it. I think if he's going to get anything, he should have only gotten a year at the very worst.
Right.
And that's just for the thing on the questionnaire, which I think is a complete joke. Anyway, you're asking fighters who are more worried about cutting weight and making sure they're on weight. Adrenaline. Well, they shouldn't be filling that crap out. They should be like the managers and and everything else. Hey, what'd you take? Blah 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 blah. Did you take anything? Okay, no. Okay, I'll make sure I put it in.
Mm-hmm.
This is something the fighters should be doing, but that's for here nor there. But not a lot of fights this weekend. It was an off week last week. This week we got World Series of Fighting 24 out in Connecticut. Headliner Jon Fitch against Yushin Okami, 2 former title contenders, and I talked to Fitch last week, and we'll have the audio of that up, I think either tomorrow or Friday. But he was shocked Okami's coming down from 170, and that's coming down to 170, and that shocked him and a lot of people in the MMA world. I would love to know how Okami's making 170 here, because
he has to lose muscle. I mean, he has to lose muscle. There's no way. Okami was a big middleweight. If you remember, Okami was the middleweight example of a giant middleweight, of today's middleweight. If you remember when Mike Swick fought Yushin Okami at 185 pounds in the UFC, the entire time Joe Rogan was comparing their size, because of course Mike Swick got out-muscled in that fight. So he is a very, very large person, and he apparently, has to lose muscle and focus on a completely different workout regimen to compete at 170 pounds. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
No, not at all. And I give him a lot of credit for this. This is a big risk, because both guys are at the tail end of their careers. It's not like these guys are 26, 27 years old or in their early 30s. This is probably I would think the last big fight for either guy.
Right.
You really have to look at it. The winner here will face Jake Shields for the vacant welterweight title sometime in early 2016, from what I've been told, by World Series. So I don't know. This is a big. I think Fitch wins, because I just think that weight cut. First of all, I'll be shocked if Okami makes 171, because that's all he's got to make is 171. So I will be surprised if he makes that. I'm just intrigued by how he looks tomorrow at the weigh-in.
Right.
Intrigued.
I haven't seen any pictures of him at all, so I'm surprised. I am just as intrigued as you are.
No, but I think this is the end of the line for both guys here. I think the winner's still relevant. Oh yeah, there'll still be a name, but that's all there'll be is a name. But I don't. There's really nothing else. This is the fight on the card. You got Nick Newell fighting on the card. I'm trying to figure. I forget who else is even fighting on this card.
Nick Newell, by the way, the one-armed fighter who has been very, very successful actually in mixed martial arts. It's hard for me to watch usually people who have some sort of disability, or there was a guy who had no legs who was fighting. It's usually hard for me to watch those. But Nick Newell, he's a badass. Nick Newell could take out most MMA fighters, most professional MMA fighters. Nick Newell's going to take you out in the first round. Very, very impressive athlete. Of course, with an arm and a half, he's doing it as well.
You got Magomed Biblatiov against Donovan Freelo for the inaugural flyweight title. A light heavyweight match that, I would have liked 5 years ago, but I'm still going to watch because I love MMA. Matt Hamill and Vinny Malgahesh. The aforementioned Nick Newell against Tom Marcelino. And for the heavyweight title, Blegi Ivanov against Derek Meeman. I like Ivanov. If you like young stud heavyweights, I love this guy.
Okay.
So, definitely keep an eye on him. And then the main event, Okami and Jon Fitch. But no, an interesting card. It starts at 9 Eastern on the NBC Sports Network from the Foxwoods Resort Casino in Mashtucket, Connecticut, right outside of New York. So very intriguing card for World Series. Some notables on prelims. Rick Glenn fighting a local. You remember Adam Ward, right, Mike Finch?
Adam ADD Ward, absolutely. I've called a couple of his fights for the XFO.
Now talk a little bit about Adam Ward. We'll give Adam a little plug here. He's a local guy. This is a national MMA podcast, but let's talk a little local here. Who is Adam Ward, and what do you make of him as a fighter?
Adam Ward is a tough, gritty guy. He's an XFO veteran. He has a lot of experience as a professional. And, he's a well-rounded guy. He's good in the clinch. He's very good when he gets on top of people. He's a strong guy. And he's pretty funny to be friends with on Facebook, actually. So he's a really nice guy. I think that he can go far in this sport. I'm glad he made it to World Series of Fighting. It's a big deal for him, obviously. He was just headlining an XFO event. I want to say about 4 or 5 months ago. This year he was competing for the XFO. So he was finishing his competition, and now he's moving up. So the sky's the limit for the kid. I think that he's not necessarily a freak athlete by any sense, but he has a very, very strong mind, and he has a very, very good cardio, and he has good pressure. And when you have those tools, you don't have to have, the Conor McGregor movement. You don't have to have that. You can be a forward fighter. And if he continues to put more pressure on people, I think when Adam Ward pressures people, they break. And he's one of those guys who's going to keep coming at you at a furious pace. A Matt Browne type of a guy who, overwhelms their opponent. So keep a lookout for Adam ADD Ward. He is absolutely up and coming, and you could see him in the UFC very soon.
Good luck to Adam Ward tomorrow night, facing a good veteran, Rick Glenn. So I think this is a very good test for Adam Ward. Rick Glenn, former title contender in Bellator and World Series of Fighting. So, no, actually not in Bellator. I mean in World Series of Fighting, so I do apologize for that. No, but the best of luck to local boy Adam Ward tomorrow night. But there is really nothing else going on this weekend. Next weekend, we got UFC Fight Night returns to Dublin. They go Joe Duffy, Dustin Poirier, no Ben Rothwell. Oh, are you watching boxing this weekend? I don't know. I think you're
I'm a mild boxing fan. I'll check out the big fights. I don't like to say I'm like a big boxing fan, and then people want to start talking about Pernell Whitaker, and you know what I mean? I get lost. But I think that I'm going to have a blast at the XFO event this weekend.
Talk about that a little. Plug yourself out here. What's going on this weekend, Mike Finch?
XFO Rocktown Showdown this Saturday in Rockford. A few people from my gym are fighting. A lot of fighters from MTC. A lot of fighters actually from around the United States are traveling all the way up to come and compete around the Midwest, especially. So yeah, it's going to be, I want to say, definitely more than 20 fights. I mean, there are a lot of fights happening. It's going to be a phenomenal amateur card, a lot of kickboxing as well as MMA. Girl out of our gym, Heaven Podgorski, is making her kickboxing debut. So her first time fighting in a cage. It's hard for me always to call the fights when some of our guys are fighting. It's like, I have to try to not corner them or coach them, and I'm learning it as I go. It's difficult for sure because we're just fans. I mean, and we get into every fight we see, and when I know somebody who's fighting in the cage and I see something, especially because I'm talking about it on the mic, it's hard not to corner them. But I'm going to practice that and make sure to be a good commentator this Saturday. So if you guys do live in the Midwest, especially Northern Illinois area, please come on out. Rocktown Showdown, always a really good card, and a lot of great gyms coming to fight each other. So some really, really awesome fights they got. If you guys want to get tickets, localmmatickets.com. You'll see them right at the top.
You're doing that. You're working this weekend. I'm covering the great boxing fight with my man Triple G Gennady Golovkin against David Lemieux, and in my mind, the best fighter in the world, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, facing Brian Valora. So I'll be watching that on HBO pay-per-view, covering that this weekend, top to bottom. So make sure you guys check that out. I'll have a feature I think tomorrow, either tomorrow night or Friday morning, there'll be a feature up that I'm doing on Gennady Golovkin, and I'll have coverage of that all weekend. A Jon Fitch article will be up it'll be up sometime Friday also, and we'll have this podcast up as well. And next week, really, we got UFC Fight Night. Whatever, we'll recap the World Series show coming up this weekend. Actually, really quickly, I want to get your thoughts on Joe Warren right before we go. What'd you make of him testing positive for marijuana after really being an advocate, be a big staunch supporter of people doing drugs and performance-enhancing drugs?
Before I answer that, I got to give a plug to my guy Logan at Energy. Forgot to say he's making his MMA debut.
Peace, Logan. Good luck, buddy.
Good luck, Logan. Joe Warren, that is a crazy character, okay? He says a lot of things he doesn't mean. I don't know. I don't think he's an honest person, if I'm being honest. I don't ever take Joe Warren too seriously. You never know if he's giving you the Chael Sonnen act, or if he's being sincere, or I don't know what Joe Warren's on. I think a lot of people, I think it's a lot of people. There's stereotypes about marijuana, or that, potheads are just lazy people who don't. I guarantee you that, many politicians, many people who are very successful in business, marketing, who are successful in all areas, smoke marijuana. including fighters, of course, because what happens is you get really, really sore. And after a stressful day of training, if you smoke marijuana, it relaxes your body. So a lot of people actually do use marijuana therapeutically. And so for fighters, it makes sense. For Joe Warren to speak against it and then test positive for it, he looks like a jackass. But I mean, I never take Joe Warren too seriously, and you never know when he's putting on an act and when he's in character per se.
We will definitely end with those kind words towards Joe Warren from. But Mike, where can the fans find you on Twitter? Wow, a little love. Oh, he loves.
My heart looked way better than that. Don't disrespect my heart.
Where can the fans find you on Twitter, my friend? Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc.
Twitter.com/Mike2Finch. I will be posting the Mike Finch Minute, a 1-minute breakdown of Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm on my Facebook page that you can like, the journalist page, which is Facebook.com/MikeFinchMMA. I'm going to try to change everything over to Mike Finch MMA. Currently, my YouTube channel is YouTube.com/Mike2Finch. That's where the video will be up. And I'm actually going to start cutting little parts of this podcast out, Steve. So those will be popping up on our YouTube channel for this podcast, which is YouTube.com/FightGamePodcast. Make sure you check that out.
Check that out. You can find me on Twitter at @SMuehlhausenMMA. You can find me on Facebook. I don't have a big fancy page like you do on Facebook. I just got a personal friends, family, colleagues, just Steve Muehlhausen. Find me on Facebook. Find our podcast at Fight Club Pod. That's our Twitter handle. And also subscribe, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. Keep on listening. Keep on downloading. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. It's doing very well. So thank you guys so much for that. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. We need more subscribers. Come on. The views are there. We need some more subscribers. We need to make some more money. So thank you so much. But Mike, thank you so much. As always, you're teaching a jiu-jitsu class in a couple minutes. So plug your jiu-jitsu class. Where do you teach?
I teach at Energy MMA in Lakemore, and I've been teaching there for a long time. I actually used to represent the gym when I would fight. So I am, going to give the guys a good class tonight of we're going through a lot of submissions, a lot of basic submissions from all kinds of different positions. And we got people competing at Combat Corner grappling tournament, which is up in Wisconsin. And then I'm going to go, so this is Saturday, I'm going all the way up to Combat Corner. I'm going to corner a bunch of our athletes who are competing. And then I'm driving all the way out to Rockford, which is probably like 2 or 3 hours. And I'm going to call the fights. And then I'm going to drive another 2 hours all the way back home. So jam-packed Saturday, but we'll have guys on the mat and guys in the cage and girls in the cage. So I'm looking forward to a nice, busy Saturday.
Your Saturday is that. My Saturday is relaxing until about 8 o'clock in the evening and starting to watch some great boxing action. So you're doing jiu-jitsu and MMA commentating this weekend, and I'm just going to do MMA. I'm going to do boxing writing. So it's a great weekend. But thank you so much to everyone for listening and watching. As always, we thank you so much. For Mike Finch, I'm Steve Muehlhausen. We'll see you at the fights.
Peace.